Joining me now, Amy Lee Copeland, former Georgia federal prosecutor and current attorney specializing in federal criminal defense, and John Malcolm. He's also a former Georgia federal prosecutor, served as Deputy Assistant Attorney General in the Department of Justice's Criminal Division. Thanks very much to both of you for coming on. Appreciate it. All right, so Amy Lee, what am I getting wrong here?
Well, there were several things just as a factual matter. First, there wasn't a draft indictment released yesterday. It was a docket sheet that the clerk's office put up and called it fictitious. There wasn't a press release by the DA. The other thing, too, is it's all about accountability. The people of Georgia have a right to have their interests vindicated. The RICO statute itself says it's to be liberally construed to protect the interests of the people of this state. It was uncertain for a while whether or not Jack Smith would proceed. I know that there was some slowdown there. And Ms. Willis started investigating this in February 2021. She took it to a special purpose grand jury that heard over 75 witnesses and had a sifting and thorough investigation, and then took it to a regular grand jury. This has resulted in an indictment that you believe is valid. You think there are countervailing issues that prevent it being a good idea. But nonetheless, it's criminal behavior, and it's criminal behavior that should be prosecuted on behalf of the people of Georgia.
And would you say the same thing with regard to the other states where this has occurred too, where the other states with the fake electors, et cetera? Should those local prosecutors bring charges against Donald Trump as well?
If they have the evidence and they have the inclination, then they can do it.
Well, I know they can. I know they can. I'm asking you whether they should.
It's up to them, Dan. I mean, the pettit policy that you talked about earlier, the Department of Justice's policy, isn't really a two-way street. It's where the Department of Justice agrees to step aside if it doesn't have interest separate from a separate state prosecution. So, you know, this is why the Georgia case is going forward. This is why it's important to go forward. Accountability is important. There was so much that went on in Georgia, from the Coffee County voting machine breaches to the threatening of poll workers to the calls to the Secretary of State, to this slate of fake electors. We have an important interest in this state in having this vindicated.
John Malcolm, what do you make of the case I made? You probably disagree with me from the other side to some degree.
Well, yeah, actually, I agree with a lot of what you said, Dan. The one thing where I would push back is you said that the election was unambiguous in terms of the winner. And I might even personally agree with you. That is not what is relevant. It is whether Donald Trump and the people around him believed that the election had been stolen or that the rules had been changed and that there was a legitimate reason to contest that
Well, let me
election.
ask you about that. You talk about the rules being changed. The way you resolve rules being changed you don't like is you go to court. You don't just
that's right.
Right? So that was the remedy that they had, which is to go to court. And they went to court and they lost in court. And when they were losing in court, then they decided, okay, now let's try and use this other method. No?
First of all, Fani Willis has cited statements that were made in court as overt acts in furtherance of the conspiracy. She has cited the fact that 18 attorneys general, with the support of the Trump administration, filed a motion before the Supreme Court as an overt act in furtherance of a criminal conspiracy. That is indeed one way to contest the rules. The other is to petition for a redress of grievances. And you can petition for a redress of grievances before state legislators. I would have that right. You would have that right. And Donald Trump has that right. The other thing that she keeps saying is, steps in furtherance of a criminal conspiracy is Donald Trump having discussions for inferior officers within his administration, talking to his vice president, talking to people in the Justice Department. That is entirely his right and prerogative as president. He may have to pay a political consequence for doing that.
So let me ask you this.
That is entirely his right as president of the United States.
Is it his right to be involved in going in to voting machines after the election without authorization and taking the data from it?
So fair enough. So the two things about this indictment that I really don't know enough about are the allegations involving the Old Dominion voting machines in Coffee County and the alleged attempt to intimidate Ruby Freeman. You have a right to question witnesses, try to talk to witnesses. You don't have the right to intimidate witnesses. So I can't comment on those two aspects of the indictment. But with respect to the rest, this is treading on dangerous territory in terms of trying to impinge on presidential prerogatives and his First Amendment rights to free speech.
Thank you for watching. Go to newsnationnow.com to find NewsNation on your cable provider. And don't forget to click the red subscribe button below to get more of NewsNation's fact-driven, unbiased coverage.